Tell you something, being a man ain't no joke.
Toxic masculinity.
Bullying.
The Me Too movement against sex.
Hello, fellas, and welcome back to A Christian Male Perspective. My name is Andre, and if you're new to this channel, we discuss topics that are important to men, Christian men in particular, but for men of all kind, about how we can move and operate in this modern world. Please do the YouTube thing, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. You know how the algorithm works. Now actually sharing is more important than actually leaving a comment, but please do that too. But yes, share this video out with others other men and potential women who may find this topic interesting. And what is the topic for the day? Talking about nice guys versus good men. Let's get right into it. So for today's topic, we're talking about nice guys versus good men. Well, you may say, Andre, are they the same thing? Are nice guys and good men basically the same? The answer is no, they're not. There are some distinct differences between a nice guy versus a good man. And let's talk about them. First, nice guys tend to be people pleasers. And what do I mean? Nice guys are those guys who want to make everyone happy. They want to never get on the bad side of anyone. They want to be basically yes men because they don't want to make a stand or take a stand that may offend or hurt someone. They want to be liked by everyone. A good man is a savage servant. And what I mean by that is that they are trying not so much as to make people happy and to please people, but they are serving others to help give them the best possible outcome for their situations. And they do that with a sense of ferocity, a sense of compassion, a sense of passion, if you will, not compassion, but a sense of passion. And it may not always please people. It may not always be a yes, if you will. Which leads to the second topic. Nice guys tend to be very agreeable. In many cases, too agreeable to a fault. Because they're people pleasers, because they want to be liked, they do not want to do anything that will potentially bring confrontation. So when someone brings something to them, nice guys are quick to say yes. They're quick to say okay. They're quick to agree with whatever someone brings along. Good men are willing to say no when it's necessary. No is a very unpopular word. It is not a word that many people want to hear. But there are times when no's are necessary. I can tell you as a father, there have been times when I've had to say no to my children or no even to my wife. Because in my mind, that was not the best course of action for them to live their best life. Again, it's not easy, but it is sometimes necessary. Which leads to the third difference. Nice guys, their values tend to change. Because they are people pleasers, because they are agreeable, they tend to not have firm beliefs or firm principles, because when you do have firm principles and firm beliefs, you may have to make a decision that other people don't like because of those principles or beliefs. Good men will stand firm in their principles, and they're willing to explain what the principles are and why it's important to them. Good men don't rule out of fear, but out of a principled stance to serve and to help those that are under their leadership to live out their best possible life. Next difference. Nice guys avoid confrontation. Again, we talk about nice guys being people pleasers, being agreeable, changing their values so as not to offend or anyone. And they do this a lot to avoid confrontation. Now, I am not someone who enjoys confrontation. It is not something I go out seeking. But because I am striving to be a good man, there are certain values and principles that I hold firm to. And because I hold firm to those values and principles, I am willing to fight for what I believe is right. And that is another characteristic of a good man. They're willing to fight for what they believe is right. And they're willing to stand firm in their principles. When you think about nice guys, they tend to be passive aggressive. Now, for those who are not familiar with what passive aggressive means, that's when someone appears happy, for lack of a better term, or joyous or even content on the outside, but on the inside, they're feeling upset or distraught, but they don't want to say anything because it will cause a confrontation. Again, nice guys, they want to avoid the confrontation. But that resentment will tend to build up over time. That's something I have seen it in other people, but that with nice guys, they can only hold out that facade for so long. Good men will be assertive in what they want. Now, I had a whole episode here, we talk about being assertive. And many times when you are assertive, when you tell someone this is what I want, and you explain to them why you want it, why it's important to you, sometimes they may take it as being harsh or rude. Because in today's society, it seems, man, that we're not direct as we should be. We're beating around the bush a lot. We're skirting the issues because to tell someone direct risks confrontation and risk offending them. But a good man is willing to do that if it's for a reason that he believes if it's based on a principle or decision that he thinks is for the best outcome. Nice guys, they seek approval and validation from others. Remember we talk about nice guys being people pleasers and avoiding confrontations and changing their values to appease someone else. They're doing that many times to seek that approval and validation from others. Now, if you hear me, we're going to talk about the love languages, and words of affirmation there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with desiring words of affirmation. But typically what I've seen in nice guys is that they're putting on a facade in order to seek approval or gain attention and gain approval from others. Good men, they don't do that. And good men are secure in themselves. They know who they are. They have an identity that they are sure of. And yes, this may be something you work on in time, but it's working on knowing who you are and whose you are, if you will. And especially as Christian men, we have to be very careful that we're not seeking approval from the world. And by the world, I mean society, I mean social media. We're not actively seeking approval and yes from them, and yet not seeking first approval from God. And that's something we have to be very, very, very careful of. It is easy to fall into that trap. It is very easy to fall in that trap if you're not diligent. But we, especially as Christian men, knows whose we are. We belong to Christ. And if you know that and your identity is secure in that, then you do not have to go out of your way. You do not have to compromise your values in order to seek approval or validation from others out in the world. And that means that, yes, you're going to offend some people. That means, yes, some people won't like you, but you have to know, you have to be secure in yourself and secure in your position in Christ to be willing to stand against that. Next, nice guys tend to avoid responsibility. Because when you take responsibility, and I'll say this, good guys, we're doing everything we can to lead. Now, when you lead, you risk making mistakes. And I go to football, I use that analogy a lot. When I was the captain of the defense, the coach will call a play. He will call a defensive formation and a stunt or whatever the case may be. If I see something different on the field, because I'm on the field, I'm in the thick of it, and I see something different that the coach can't see on the sideline, I had the option to make an audible or an adjustment to either the linemen on the front and the linebackers. I had that authority to make that adjustment. That also, if I make an adjustment and the other team scores a touchdown, now I have to take responsibility for that mistake. I can't blame it on the lineman. Even if the lineman got double teamed and blocked and there was a hole there, if I make the adjustment, it is because I am the leader. I take that responsibility. I don't push that responsibility off on someone else. Same way, men. You being willing, good men are willing to accept that responsibility. They're willing to accept that leadership, even if it means that you may make a mistake. You may end up making a decision that doesn't go the way you want to. Nice guys want to avoid that because when you're willing to take the leadership and you're willing to take the lead, you risk offending other people because you have to make a decision. Being a leader is not, and this is something I had to learn being in corporate America. Being a manager, which is what I am, I'm a manager, means that I'm responsible for those below me. I'm responsible for their growth. I'm responsible for helping them to progress within their careers, both within our firm and outside of our firm. And because of that, I help make decisions. I help provide guidance to them. Sometimes I may make a mistake. I know in today's world, people don't want to accept that. But yes, there are sometimes I may suggest a wrong course for them to take when it may not end up being beneficial to them. It happens. But that is the potential when you take on leadership, there's that potential for that mistake. And sometimes it works out really well. Hey, it goes both ways. Um, I'll leave it at this. Somebody has to think about with basketball. We're watching the NBA playoffs right now. There's 2 seconds left on the clock. Your team is down by one. Somebody on that court, even though the coach may call the play from the sideline, somebody on that court has to make a decision on who's going to shoot and who gets the ball, who's going to shoot. And you have to be willing to be, man, if that's your position and you're in a position of leadership, you have to be willing to make that tough call. Whether it's you taking a shot or you passing it to someone else and giving them the authority to take that shot. And if you do that, and if you're the leader, think about LeBron James. He at the last minute, he gets ready, he got just 2 seconds to go. If he either has a choice, either he goes in and he takes the shot and he risks missing and it all the blowback coming on him, or even if he drives and he passes to an open J.R. Smith. I know J.R. Smith, great player. And if J.R. misses a shot, in my mind, it's still LeBron James because he is the leader of the team, because he was on the floor. If JR misses a shot, yes, JR has some responsibility because he didn't make, especially if it's a wide open shot. But LeBron James still has some responsibility as the leader because he made the decision to pass to J.R. Smith. All right, fellas. So, nice guys versus good men. How do you know the difference? Well, here are 3 tips that you can use in your life. These are things I've implemented in my life and continue to implement in my life. I've seen this work in other men's life who are so much further ahead on this journey than I am. Number 1, reject passivity. According to the dictionary, passivity is acceptance of what happens without active response or resistance. The way I think about passivity is kind of being in a ship on the ocean and you just letting the waves take you wherever it goes instead of you rowing towards a specific destination. And guys, so many times we are passive in how we let life deal with us. We're not being purposeful, being intentional about what we're going and what we're doing. In James 4:17, and this is from the English Standard Version, it says, "So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin." This is James. He was given a little dissertation. And What I take that to mean is if you know there is something that is right to do, you know there is a right decision or a right path to take, but you choose not to do it, then it is sin. Then the outcome is not going to be as good as you want. And men, I say this and it's not easy, but doing the right thing may cause others to not like you. And may cause others, you may not be on people's friends list by doing the right thing. You may not be popular with the crowd by doing the right thing. But the opposite of that is being passive and just going along. There's a quote attributed to the 18th century Irish philosopher Edmund Burke, and it says, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." In short, if we're passive and we see evil being done, or if we know the right thing to do and we choose not to do it, then there's no telling what type of evil could happen. So, guys, I urge you, be purposeful in your living, be intentional in your living. Number two, accept responsibility. Nice guys, as I said before, do not want to accept responsibility because accepting responsibility means that you may end up making a decision because you're in a position of responsibility that may offend others and you may not be liked. You may not be popular. I love comics, and one of my favorite comic book superheroes is Spider-Man. And there's a quote I say all the time to the young men that I mentor. With great power come great responsibility. We know that's from Uncle Ben and what he told Peter. And that is still no less true today. Guys, we have to own the decisions that we make, whether good or bad. And that's not easy because sometimes we may end up making a decision that doesn't bring a good outcome, even if that was unintentional. Let me put it to you this way. Think about the story of Adam and Eve. You guys know the story in the garden. God made Adam. He took Eve from his side and put them together, put them in the garden. And basically, you can eat of any other trees except for this one. That's what he told Adam. Adam told Eve. You can eat of all the trees except for this one. Of course, we know the serpent came along and basically seduced and tempted Eve, and she ate. Then she gave some to Adam, and he ate. Well, when God came along in the garden, you can find this in Genesis chapter 3, roughly verses 8 through 19, this part of the story happens. When God came through, he didn't ask for Eve. He didn't first talk to Eve. Who did he first talk to? Adam. He questioned Adam. He didn't question Eve at first. Why? Because Adam was the head. Adam was the leader. And he had responsibility for that garden. That was his primary responsibility. He had responsibility for that garden. Now, I know it's not easy, guys. And Adam, he shifted the blame, right? He didn't want to take the responsibility and the potential punishment and the outcome from disobeying God. And like I said, it's not easy. No one wants to be punished. No one wants to have to deal with the consequences of their decisions. But being a good man means that you do take responsibility. Doesn't mean you don't try to work through it, but you don't shift the blame to others. Last but not least, this kind of leads into the whole concept of leading courageously. By not being passive, by being intentional and assertive, by accepting responsibility, good men are able to lead courageously. Doesn't mean it doesn't get scary sometimes. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean you always know what to do. But for those that are placed under your leadership, you are willing to stand in the vanguard. You're willing to stand out front, even when you don't know what to do, because you are willing to lead courageously. And there are many times when There are times in my life, in my marriage, 20 plus years, when I haven't always known the right thing to do or the right thing to say. I've had to go pray to God. I've had to ask my wife to get input on her. But it has been my responsibility to lead courageously. It doesn't mean that you always know what to do, but you're willing to stand out front and take the hits from the world. You're willing to stand out front and be that shield that your family, that those that are placed under your leadership need. It's not an easy job, and it's not always a fun job. Here's a good example in the book of Joshua, Joshua chapter 1, verse 9. Joshua had just seen the people brought over through the Red Sea. He was there in the right hand of Moses, so he's seen all the different miracles and all the different feats of God. He's seen them brought out of Egypt. Joshua has been there for all of that. Now, Moses has passed on, and he passed the mantle of leadership down to Joshua. I'm sure he wasn't the oldest one there by any means, but it was his responsibility to lead the people into the promised land. It was his responsibility to lead the people through the different wars and all the different struggles they're going to have to face to get to the end. So you look at Joshua. He was not passive. He did not just kind of let the things come to him. No, he prayed and he followed God's advice, and he was intentional about leading the people. He sent out scouts. He was active and intentional about going and achieving the visions and the goals that were set forth him. He accepted the responsibility, that mantle of leadership, and he led courageously. And one of the reasons why he was able to lead courageously was because he had a relationship and he knew where his source of strength come from, which was God. So in Joshua 1 and 9, God talking directly to him said, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." And this is something I can attest in my life. I've seen it happen in other people's lives. Men, if you keep God first, I know we get distracted. It happens to me. It happens to the best of us. But if we can keep God first, if we can seek his kingdom first, as it says in Matthew 6 and 33, seek his kingdom first and his righteousness first, God will be there with us. He will give us the strength and courage that we need to be able to lead our families, to be able to lead those that are put under our leadership, our sphere of influence. It's not always easy, but it is doable. That I can assure you. All right, fellas, that's it for today's topic. Nice guys versus good men. We really want to be on the side of good men, not on the side of nice guys. All right, stay sharp, fellas. Thank you for watching today's video. Please like it, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. You can follow us on social media at A Christian Male Perspective. Stay sharp, fellas.